Hello, this is Reverend Don Lewis coming to you from beautiful Salem. On Midsummer night of this year, I had the privilege of interviewing Therese and Michael Pendragon of the Oracle Chamber here in Salem. Therese and Michael are fascinating people, and they've been part of the community for many years. In our interview, we discussed the many interesting things for sale at the Oracle Chamber, as well as the services and classes they offer. And then we get down to a long discussion of their history in the community, the things they've seen and done, and what they hope to see in the future. I'm sure you'll enjoy the interview.
Hello, I'm Michael Pendragon.
Hello, and I'm Therese Pendragon.
And this is the Oracle Chamber in Salem, Massachusetts.
At 142 Derby Street.
The hours here are 11 to 7 every day but Tuesday. Today we're often closed except during the busy Halloween season, then we're 11 to whenever, every day. Most people come to us for the readings, psychic consultations, tarot, palmistry, astrology. We do also offer a fair amount of magical supplies.
And one-of-a-kind items.
Yes, Therese specializes in these beautiful one-of-a-kind kind of art pieces.
With magical meanings.
Leather fans, feathers, beautiful dolls.
Yeah, and my catnip mice that are very popular.
One of the most popular items are these little catnip mice, which they're actually our response to potentially very poisonous mice toys coming in from China and other places that are all safe.
These are all very natural and no harm to any of the kitties. And then I offer magical spoons for the kitchen magic. And I have dream catchers, and we use it from Salem Willows.
Yep.
Salem.
Our own versions.
Our own versions.
And we make jewelry and other
jewelry,
bits and pieces too.
Necklaces and microset stones and rings.
But the main things that we do are the divinations and readings.
And we also do belly dance classes.
Ah!
Yes.
Very good.
Magic classes and
magic classes.
Yeah.
Isn't she pretty though?
She's beautiful.
Yeah.
They're all different.
And you were saying this one is...
This is Bridget. She's the goddess of Inbug, and she's the goddess of every skill. And she's wearing the fur, and basically...
Because it's cold.
Well, it's not just cold.
She has the latent fertility of the corn. Her body's made of corn.
So the body is a corn...
It's a corn cob.
A corn cob.
Yeah,
not necessarily traditional to European things, but we're here.
Exactly.
Mixing and blending.
Yeah.
So it's just a beautiful expression of a corn doll for fertility, protection, creativity, all the Brigitte and Native American corn images.
And also her light comes burst from the ground with the seed of the child, the promise for spring.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's the 8-spoke wheel of the year.
It's beautiful. And these are made of...
This is bone, and I made the handles.
So we generally don't use much of iron. My favorite, if I was to use iron, I do like meteorite iron. It's fun, but
the beading is beautiful.
Thank you.
Very nicely done.
yeah, just for typical one-of-a-kind pieces. Different types of stones. So people can pick through and choose.
So people pick their own stone,
Yeah,
and then you put it together for
and then
them.
we can put the setting in that they want. If they don't have a stone here, I can order other ones that may be bigger or fancier or whatever they need. But generally there's a whole range of most of the precious and semi-precious stones. But another batch. I think you might want all the tanzanites. But
It's quite a wide selection.
yeah,
It is.
yeah, it's fun. Sometimes people want to buy them just single to put them in a medicine pouch or something, or mojo, or into a tincture too, or oils.
Yeah, very popular for people.
But
Very popular.
for all kinds of jewelry. And if people are lucky, I might cut a mandible out for them or something.
And this is, I make a few of the necklaces. This is potato pearl with garnet, and this is
It's beautiful.
rice pearl with lapis lazuli from Afghanistan. And
Yeah.
and amethyst. These bird magic's very popular. And they're all hand painted.
And you founded the Oracle Chamber together, and it's been here for how long?
7.5 years.
And do you enjoy having it here?
Yeah, owning a store is very interesting. It can be satisfying. It's a lot more difficult than most people might recognize. In Salem, where it's got some seasonal sides to it, but it's also a town where you can meet people from everywhere, so it is a lot of fun.
Plus, we're what you consider Old Salem, and we love being near the ocean.
Yes, the location is wonderful.
Yes.
And it's kind of nice that it's away from a lot of the other witch stores and stuff, and the basic crossfire and gossip. It's nice to be away from it.
Now, you're from here, yes?
Yes, I was born and raised in Salem.
And are you from elsewhere or from here too?
I was actually born in Danvers, which was really
Oh.
old Salem Village. Grew up in Topsfield, which is a town a few miles north of here, but I've lived in Salem since 1980.
So you really know what this area is like because you've always been here.
Yes.
Yes.
How is it different today?
It's been heavily commercialized in many ways. I can remember in the mid-'80s, you could walk and drive through Salem on Halloween Eve. And although it was just a little busier, it wasn't at all like it is now, with the huge amounts of people just, and the efforts of the city to try to chase everyone away and control the crowd and whatnot. So in one way, it's a great benefit to the merchants and stuff. In another way, it's actually not very much at all to do with anything about witchcraft.
Right. During the olden days, what I call a good 20 years ago, it was so much lighthearted. There was a lot more revelry and festivity. Not so commercialized as
It
it
was
is.
more of a college and arty little town. Now it's just gotten really sucked into its tourist importance or whatever. But, which is good and bad. I shouldn't be too down on it. It's just a little sad to see how things have changed in some areas.
Do you find the area has a special energy?
Yes,
Absolutely.
I do. Actually, there's some interesting ley line theories, and the great triangles, like if you took the Bermuda Triangle and made 20 others that go up and down around the globe, and then you take the next layer of triangles, Salem Harbor fits right at the point of that. Right where Misery Island is about exactly where it is. And if you douse out these areas, you find the energy fields are very tightly packed, and the further away you get from Salem, the more they open up. So it does offer some interesting stuff. It seems to attract people. It's a different kind of energy. In some of the towns around, you'll find that also. Very strange upwelling energy around in Marblehead and Danvers. In some ways, the Native Americans didn't like it at all. They considered it a very good place to fish, but not a good place to live. It was forbidden. I believe Danvers had a bad energy around it.
There's a lot of legends about the woods, the Salem woods, and how there were these legendary monsters out there and so forth that the Indians were afraid of.
Yeah. So, who knows? These are all legends and everything. I find it a nice place to live, as a matter of fact. And I think that's part of the reason, aside from the fact that you have so many pagan and witchcraft influenced people, it allows you to, if you wish, to only deal with these people. You could really go many days, except for maybe going to the store or something, and not really encounter anyone else. I find that gets boring, but it is possible, and that's a nice thing. The police are educated, people understand that they're not going to get anywhere trying to push alternate religions around. You know, it's good in that way. I think it blinds the people that live here to how tough it can be in other parts of the country. They need to remember a lot of this work needs to continue, and we need to be supportive of what's going on elsewhere. And also be aware of how nice a lot of pagans are elsewhere. We could bring some of that in to great effect, I think.
Also, Salem was very rich in its cultural aspects, and a lot of the architecture. It has the best in the world. In fact, a lot of the architecture has been used in the books for architecture in colleges.
Chestnut Street.
Chestnut Street especially, and a lot of these areas
I don't know if it's the best in the world, but it's glaring examples of a wonderful Federalist period.
French and
Yeah,
Greek.
all these influences kind of mushing together with very wealthy, younger American.
Plus the telephone was invented here in Salem. And we had the first commercial candy company in America, in Salem.
And the first
Right up the street,
Right
yeah.
up the street, they invented rock candy, in fact. It's rock and Gibraltar, it's in a jar. And
They're still in business.
yes, they are, and they're wonderful. Excellent candy. They make everything there. And my gosh, we had the first millionaire in America, Captain Derby.
And $1 million then is probably billions now. So
Of course. Of course.
either way, as a modern city, it's a very wonderful little city to live in, without a
Absolutely.
doubt. Although a tad expensive, I think people would find.
Well, it's like any town. Of course, being a seaside town, it definitely has drawn a lot of attention. And,
But
So you've been in the pagan community for a very long time.
yes,
most of my life.
How did you come to be in this community?
well, you search and search. Both of our paths would be somewhat different, and then they kind of merge together. But I just always found a great deal of dissatisfaction with the religious approaches presented to me, and so you always read and you look and you study, and then I think I was about 12 or 13 and I ran into one of my first pagan books, and it just clicked on me as a good pathway. And of course, as a teenager, you become greatly interested in ceremonial magic and Aleister Crowley. It was very difficult to actually get books back then in some ways. It was not as easy.
It's true.
They were not around as much. So
Do you remember what book it was?
I think it was Magic in Theory and Practice by Aleister Crowley, and the first witchcraft one was Doreen Valiente's Witchcraft for Tomorrow, I believe, and I believe Paul Hewson's Mastering Witchcraft.
It's wonderful.
A dandy little black magic book.
Absolutely.
But
I scoured the libraries as a young girl, also because I became dissatisfied with the seemingly one-sided patriarchal belief systems, the Catholic Church, and plus certainly with my own personal experiences of paranormal experiences, which I thought were normal at the time, really woke me up, and I thought, well, wait a minute, there's something happening over here. So I explored other religions, and again, very similar. It's very similar to the books in those days, and I was really happy also as a young woman to come across Otto and the Green Egg, and reading a lot of his first publications. It was small at the time. They were great.
then Laurie Cabot came into town.
Yeah, she came into town, and then I started studying with her. In fact, she had a very first coven. I was a member of the Black Duck's Devices, which was published in 1979.
And Madame Cabot is a very remarkable person.
Yes, she
Yes.
is.
What has been her effect on your life?
Well, personally, I never sought training or teaching from her. I've worked with her in many ways, doing music projects and various other
We both
projects, and both of us have. But Therese pursued, through the years, all of the classes and the teachings that she had. So,
And plus one of my own teachers, high priest, who's one of my initiators in the Alexandrian Gardnerian tradition.
initiated her, right?
Initiated me.
Pantheist, yeah.
And he had a lot of hive covens that I used to assist him with. And he was also teaching at one point at Laurie Cabot's, the late Ronald Parsley.
Yes.
And we also helped to found at the time, during the late 70s and the 80s, the Ecumenical Council of Witches, to bring everybody together.
Yes.
And we had meetings at my house, and also at other areas, even at
Yeah, to bring an end to the Gardnerian versus Alexandrian issues. At that time, that was a big thing.
Well, he didn't.
And they actually met at her house to resolve some of it. And
The issues, and also they didn't want to have like an ordination mill. They wanted to, so he brought up a charter. And,
I don't know exactly how things are with them, but mostly eclectic American witchcraft has taken off in a very big, different direction than the traditional British are. you have all these wonderful things of reclaiming groups, all these different things, people focusing on different pantheons. I personally, being German and Russian, find a lot of interest in the heathenry path and the runic stuff. That really calls to me a lot. We love Egyptian, we love all these things. These are not necessarily, they're not really necessarily witchcraft, but they involve all that study of all these other cultures. And
it's best to have the background and knowledge of how it all began from the first place in the various religions.
Salem's very great for that. So many people from different kinds of traditions come here, so you can really...
It does seem to have a very wide diversity.
Yeah, it's a wonderful aspect of it for people. I think people are often very kind of dismayed. They think they're going to come to Salem. We met with wide open arms, and I'm a pagan, they're just starting, and they're kind of surprised they often get the cold shoulder, but, I think that actually is not necessarily a bad thing. Learn to knock and be polite, and you will find your way in, but...
we welcome everyone in here, as
yeah.
I'm saying, but certainly there are other people who aren't as open, but that's human nature.
Yeah, even for classes in magic, which I do not consider teaching spirituality, I think it's more technology, or it should be approached that way. You still make them ask at least 3 times. They don't know that, but well, now they do. But I would always pretend to be busy, tell them to get back to me, see if they would understand. Knock 3 times, and then absolutely come on it. Show a little persistence, but
yeah.
It is interesting. It does winnow people out because they get all huffy if you don't immediately. I've had people get downright angry, which is okay. They can find all kinds of teaching everywhere else. It's fine. We don't care.
I've been assisting Michael for years.
Yeah.
Times his classes.
So how did you happen to meet each other?
Well, the real thing is the picture in National Geographic where I was pretty busy in rock bands. The first time I saw it, I was always traveling around and doing that. I saw the picture, and I was quite aware of Laurie Cabot and what was going on in Salem. I just never really was too interested, but I saw that picture, and I saw her in it, and a weird effect around that. You kind of have that very strong set of premonition around it, apparently. And so I said, well, I think I'll hang out in Salem a little more. And a few months later, I ran into her at a party.
A year. You came for an entire year searching for
it. It was right on Imbolc, and there was a full moon. I remember clearly, and I was like hammered to the gills. And I met her. And she wouldn't give me her number, but she told me where she lived. So I, the heavy hangover, woke up the next day and said, "Where's the corner of Essex and Orange?" Drove down there and was knocking on doors.
Well, I saw him doing it. I was amused. And at the time, I was making homemade bread for the ritual, for the circle. And I was kneading the bread and had my hair piled up on my head, and I was watching him until finally he came over. So yeah, that was fairly romantic, I guess, or persistent on my part, interesting. So, and I went to that circle that night with Laurie Cabot's open circle. The old town hall at the time.
In your years in the community, what has been your biggest challenge, each one of you? What has been the hardest thing to deal with?
Oh boy, the biggest challenge in terms of community-wise.
Yeah. In terms of being in the community.
Well, a lot of people would notice that if you can collect a fair amount of people interested in magical systems, you're also going to get a fair amount of people that are not terribly well put together. I think any church could agree, anything that offers such a thing. And magical thinking quickly comes in and offers people a reason for what's going wrong with them, why they're so important that people will be zapping them or working it. It's just where it justifies it. They may not be able to do magic themselves, but that's because very powerful people are attacking them. You'll notice the whole pattern constantly. And with magic, there is no shortcut. You will be rolling your sleeves up to do work. We might be able to work in ways that are not quite understood by people, but it's still work. And there's not a good scientific reason behind it, it's not going to happen. So we may be using things that people don't necessarily understand as science yet, but they will. So these kind of people often don't really want to do any work.
They want you to solve their problems for you.
Yes.
You know,
I'm sure you've run into them a lot.
with the wave of your wand.
Yeah, they don't want to do the study and the research and all of the very hard work. In any legitimate system, you know how much you would demand out of your people.
Absolutely.
They have to learn, they must, it's really a lot. People don't realize they're surprised. They go, I thought college was tough, and they're...
Well, you can put the secrets of the universe in front of a person. It will do them no good if they don't do the work that it takes to understand it.
Yes, usually, yeah. And a lot of the secrets, so-called, are so plainly in front of them, but they're right there, generally. It's quite amusing how these grand magical things are just actually a little more, some of them are quite interesting. But it's like with astrology. It's one of the lucky breaks that I had as a young man growing up. I was totally into astronomy, actually, running around with my telescope and knowing where the planets were and knowing where everything was and how to find a double star or a galaxy or a little thing. And then, of course, that leads directly to astrology. And there's a lot of work in that. On average, I say about 20,000 pages of reading. And then, of course, I'm interested in magic as well. Not every astrologer is interested in magic, but the two combined, and being a musician, those were the main... It was taught as... You were taught mathematics, music, and astrology, astronomy, all as one field, basically. In most of the medical schools, you had to learn astrology and all the math and Latin. And so, although we can look at some of these beliefs and go, it's a little antiquated at this point, we're not entire, we need to know when to let go of systems that are patently not true. And I think skepticism is such an important tool, studying philosophy in general, that kind of careful use of skepticism can help you a lot.
Yes, indeed.
Even I don't care what kind of expert they are, I'd like to see some of these things tested out a little bit.
That was part 1 of our interview. Join us again for part 2.